That's really something special. My childhood upbringing was a little unusual in the sense that I spent 8 months of each year in Washington, D.C. in a small little hotel apartment. And then the other.
That was me knitting while watching An Inconvenient Truth, narrated by Al Gore. It was a very interesting movie. I recommend it to everybody. I'm going to be teaching a knitting class for beginners at my library this week for grown-ups. Normally I do things for children, and actually because I'm an administrator I don't do actual programs for children very often. But this program is going to be for grown-ups who would like to learn how to knit. So, in an attempt to practice a little bit of how to explain things, I'm going to show you how to cast on and how to do a basic knit stitch. Okay, you're going to take your yarn, some from the end, grab a spot that seems about right, and pull it up so that you make the shape of a hot pretzel. Then take your needle and you pick up the inside piece, pull your yarn tight so that you have one stitch. Now pull your yarn over your thumb, slide the needle in with it, yarn from the ball goes in between them, and then slide the yarn over. Yarn over your thumb, needle in with it, yarn in between, and slip that stitch on over. And this is how you cast on. There are many ways to cast on actually, but this is one of them. This is an easy way, and it's the way I originally learned, so it is the way that I prefer to do it. Alright, when you feel like you have enough stitches cast on, hold the needle with the stitches cast on in your left hand and your other needle in your right, and slide your needle in inside that first stitch just behind the other needle. Then take your yarn that's attached to the ball, careful not to get the other yarn that's just dangling there, he can just hang out, and pull that yarn that's coming from the ball around that back needle and in between the two needles. Then we're going to do like we did when we were casting on, pull the stitch over onto that first needle. Again, to knit, just slide your needle in, yarn comes in between, and you slide the stitch off. Slide your needle in, yarn in between, slide it off. As you can see, it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and you just keep on going, and pretty soon we will have knit our entire first row of this possibly a necktie, possibly a very skinny scarf, possibly a gauge swatch, which is what you knit when you want to know how many rows you have per inch and how many stitches you have per inch. So you can see this side is pretty flat. That's what's known as the right side of the material, and the other side has more of a bumpy look, and that is what is known as the wrong side of the material. However, we are doing the garter stitch, which means that you're just knitting every single row, every single stitch, and both sides end up looking the same, so it really doesn't matter. So again, we're going to slide that needle in, yarn in between, and slide it off. Continue, continue, continue. As you may get the idea, every stitch is the same. It's pretty soothing, pretty calming, pretty zen experience. It's good when you want to have something to do with your hands and you want your mind to be able to pay attention to other things. So there we go. We now have 2 rows knit. And as you can see on our right side of the material, our first row is nice and flat, our second row is bumpily. Now we'll knit our third row, and guess how this one's going to end up looking. If you guessed flat, you guessed correctly. There we go. Looking pretty good. This is the big project that I'm currently working on. It's going to be an afghan, a blanket made up of yarns of various shades of purple. As you can see, it's coming along, but I still have a long way to go. The good thing is I have a lot of purple yarn, and this is a great way to use it up. And this will make a nice gift for somebody when it is all done. So there you have it. Now you know how to knit, you know how to cast on, and you know how to do garter stitch, and theoretically, with that knowledge, you too could make a giant afghan full of leftover yarn that you had from the many other projects that you've made in the past. Hopefully the next time that I do this, I will either figure out a better way to make the MacBook iSight camera focus on the knitting details in front of it, or I will actually work up the energy to use one of Carl's cameras, which would be much easier, I'm sure, but then again, does require more energy. And seriously, if you haven't watched An Inconvenient Truth, go get it. Watch it. Even if you don't knit during it, you'll still get a lot out of it.